Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
Well, hello, world, and welcome to episode 85. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can.
Of Down South Anomalies for the astounding Untold Radio Network. My name's Jay Katz.
And I'm Especia.
And today we have an astounding guest. We are absolutely honored. I am screaming with excitement. It is Michel Raynal, the noted French cryptozoologist. Bonjour to you, Michel.
Hi.
And he's coming to us live from the south of France. Now, at the beginning of every show, we have to state, Michel, that we have absolute respect for our indigenous culture. So we are broadcasting on stolen land, part of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and we want to pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, Michel is an extraordinary cryptozoologist. He's what Ivan Sanderson, Bernard Hooverman, and I'm probably pronouncing these names wrongly, back in the 50s called a critical cryptozoologist. What is a critical cryptozoologist? We're going to find out. But this man, at the age of around 26, had his first of 30 or so articles published in a peer review magazine out of France. This man is scientifically based. The statement here is in the early terms of that notion of cryptozoology coming to fruition, that anthropologists were the people drawn to cryptozoology, not people that just claimed one day, I'm going to look for Bigfoot, I'm a cryptozoologist. This man is entirely scientifically based. And even though he has an incredible interest in the rich history of cryptozoology, he searches for those animals that there is good scientific evidence that may remain hidden, that may not be extinct, have a great possibility of being uncovered. Mm-hmm. And he has uncovered several. So glad to have you with us, Michel. It is an honor and a privilege to have you on Down South Anomalies. Thank you so much for your valuable time.
Thank you. Yes, as you said, I am a critical cryptozoologist. What does it mean? It means that I have a background in biology and chemistry. I was a biochemist from 1977 to 1987, 10 years. Then I changed completely. I was a manager for France Telecom, the main telecommunication operator in France. Nowadays it is called Orange. It's present in many countries. Well, I was in charge of the fiber, the optical fiber, the ADSL, and this kind of networks. Well, completely different, of course, with biochemistry. When I was a student, more than 50 years ago, I became interested in cryptozoology. I contacted Bernard Heuvelmans, French-Belgish zoologist, who is considered the father of cryptozoology. And after I corresponded with Heuvelmans, yes, the author of On the Track of Unknown Animals, 19 1958.
Incredible.
I made research on several unknown animals, not the stars of cryptozoology, such as the Loch Ness monster, the Bigfoot, the snowman, the Red Sea serpent, and so on. No, I made research on ill-known animals, ill-known cryptids, as we say, even some of them being quite unknown to most cryptozoologists. For instance, the case for a flightless bird in Marquesas Islands, of which we will speak in a few minutes. And of course, also the white toriki, the so-called native otter of New Zealand.
Right.
Well, as I have a scientific background in biology and chemistry, I have been always interested in zoology in general and in the scientific method. I have published several dozens of scientific articles in both popular and peer-reviewed journals, and again also on the history of the discovery of accepted species like the gorilla, the Congo peacock, the Malayan tapir, and so on.
Oh yes.
So we're still today discovering species. I believe only recently they have discovered an entirely new species of whale.
Well, animal species are discovered, including nowadays, about more than 10,000 species are discovered each year. Of course, most of them are insects, spiders, little fishes, but from time to time, large enough or sometimes big animals, big species continue to be discovered. In the last 20 years, for instance, several large monkeys have been discovered and described. Sorry.
You're right.
Large fishes, for instance, each year, 15 to 20 species of mammals are described, about 3 to 5 species of birds, 100 to 200 species of fishes, etc. So the zoological inventory of our planet is not finished. And very interestingly, most of large species were already known to the people living in the surroundings, to the natives.
Yes.
That was the case for the gorilla, only described in 1847, but who was mentioned by explorers several centuries before the official discovery of this large primate.
So before we actually step into the stuff you truly investigated, and what you've done in New Zealand is astounding, but where does your head sit in terms of this parallel hominid? Do you believe, because we are still actually discovering primate species, that there is room on this planet for a relic hominid like Bigfoot, like the Yowie, like the Yeti, to evade human capture?
Well, I repeat again, I have not made particular research on Bigfoot, but well, I am of course interested in the problem. What I would like to say is that primate species continue to be discovered and described in the recently. Well, about several dozen species of primates have been described in the last, say, 30 years. More than one per year. Okay, so some of them being large enough, about 1 meter high. So it is not physically impossible that a large primate remains to be discovered, but the problem in North America is that we have no primate in the fossil record since several million years, and nowadays no native primate is known in North America. In South America, of course, there are a lot of monkeys, spider monkeys, howling monkeys, and so on, but known in North America. Second point, in a country like Canada or the USA, where of course there are large forests, but it is very difficult for scientists at the least to admit the existence of such a large primate still unknown to science. Well, in fact, I think you can bring all the sightings that you want. You can bring all the footprints that you want. You can bring all the photographs that you want. I think it will not be sufficient. It will not be enough for scientists to admit the existence of the Bigfoot. But there can be a possibility now with the DNA tests, with the DNA analysis. Even if you have not the animal itself, with the techniques known as environmental DNA, the presence or the past presence, the recent presence of an animal can be proved without having only one cell of the animal itself. Because this method has been used, for instance, in Vietnam, with the leeches sticking or biting animals, and in the blood of the sucked by the leech, you can find the DNA of the known animals, but sometimes of unknown animals. Same thing with the lakes, or for instance the famous Loch Ness, the famous lake in Scotland. You can use the water of the lake and find the DNA of the animal, fishes, for instance, living in the Loch Ness. This has been made by a New Zealand biologist, Neil Gemmell, and of course he did not find the famous Loch Ness monster, but he found the DNA of several species, for instance, eels, trouts, and so on, salmon. So the DNA, finding DNA of an unknown primate would be a real proof, but to date, we have not this kind of evidence. Okay.
You were involved in a DNA on an incredible incident that dates back
Yes.
the St. Augustine monster, which is a giant squid. And I'm just like you, I'm going to have to go and grab some water myself. I think I've picked up the cough for Michel. So if you can just...
Can you... Yes, I have even
what an astounding book. Is that the only book you've written, Michel? I know you've written well over 30 articles.
Well, this book, I am the co-author with Pierre-Yves Garcin and of course myself, Tentacles, about giant squids and octopuses. And of course, in this book, we speak of the St. Augustine monster of 1897, more than one century ago. A huge mass of organic tissue found on the beach of Florida, at St. Augustine in Florida. Photographs of which were taken by the man who
was this one,
Dr. Webb. You showed the photograph of Dr. Webb with the huge mass of this huge mass of tissue, and several photographs were taken at this time. Also, samples were taken by this man, Dr. Webb, and they were analyzed, but it was rather supporting the theory of a giant octopus. But in 1970, but 25 later, amino acids analysis showed that it was more probably the remains of a sperm whale, the head of a sperm whale, which contains connective tissue rich in collagen. And indeed, this huge mass is made mainly with collagen. In 1999, I met with Dr. Joseph Gennaro, biologist of the University of Florida, and we worked together on the remaining samples of this Florida monster, this time to trying to make DNA analysis. This was achieved in 2003, and the results were very strange, very puzzling, because it was the match 98 or 99% matching with a very little species of very little fish of the Gulf of Mexico, only 2 inches long, 5 centimeters long, instead of the huge mass you saw on the photograph, remains of the monster, whatever its nature, about several meters long and several tons in weight. So
Right.
very little fish. That was very strange.
Mhm.
And, the scientific name of this fish is Cyprinodon variegatus. And then a few years later, I have found a book of the all that the Smithsonian Institution has bought or received for its collections in this year 1897. And the famous Dr. Webb, who photographed the monster and who sent the samples, sent the samples of the Florida monster together with samples of Cyprinodon variegatus, the famous little fish, in the same formaldehyde tank. So 1 century later, we have not the DNA of the monster, but we find out the DNA of the little fish. So all the analyses made during 1 century are wrong, or at the least they are not. We cannot trust the results because the sample have been how do you say polluted,
Contaminated.
Sorry, we did it in unison.
Fish. Of course, the Dr. Webb could not realize 1 century earlier that 1 century later we would be able to analyze the DNA, which was even not known 1 century ago, of the fish and not the monster.
Right.
And then the other thing is,
what is this animal? What was the Florida monster? In fact, in 2003, there was a huge mass of organic tissue, on the Chile coast, and it is popularly known as the Chilean blob. And of course, the resemblance with the Florida monster is extraordinary. This hemispheric form, of which was taken for the body of an octopus, and even the flesh, the hole on the right part. And can you show the color? Yes, on the right part, you see the same hole.
Yes.
Because it is the tissue exploding with the rotting of the carcass. And this time in Chile, samples were kept and analyzed again DNA, and we have 100% matching with the sperm whale. So it is in both cases the remains of a sperm whale and not a giant octopus. Well,
that mystery cleared up.
This time the DNA was the killer of the legend of the giant octopus.
But that doesn't mean that you are not aware that the possibility of a giant octopus, a giant squid, the kraken, so to speak, could definitely be there, because
they've caught big ones.
How much of the seabed do we understand? And I've heard you, to paraphrase you, you have said that the sea is the arena of giants.
The fact that the Florida monster is not a giant octopus does not mean that giant cephalopods do
Yes.
not exist.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we have strong evidence that giant cephalopods do exist. Of course, the giant squid Archaeopteryx were described only in 1847, although it was already mentioned by sailors, naturalists, several centuries earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have evidence in the that very, very large giant squids, super giant squids, are still remaining to be discovered because we have marks, scars
On whales.
on the flesh of sperm whale, precisely.
Right.
Sperm
ones.
whales feed on cephalopods, and including giant squids. Of course, the two big animals fight together.
Yeah.
And the circus of the giant squids, of the Archaeopteryx, the circus possess
Of their suckers.
like teeth.
Yes,
And of course, they can make scars on the flesh of the sperm whales. There is a relation, a ratio between the size of the scars of the circles and the size of the length, the total length of the animal. So we have about 100 times larger the Archaeopteryx than the largest circus. So we have scars 12 or 15 centimeters in diameter, suggesting the existence of giant squids with a body length, not without
without tentacles.
The tentacles of 12 to 15 meters long. That is to say, much longer than the largest ever measured.
Captured, yes.
Okay.
That's a big barbecue. You need a big barbecue for that.
They are extraordinary. I think Doug Hychek has done some work, I think, in Monster Quest and come up with a lens for photographing them. They're highly intelligent creatures.
I would like to emphasize that the length of the diameter of the scars of which I was speaking were measured by mammalogists. We have also reports, but without photographs or without measurements by scientists. We have reports of greater diameters, up to 25 or 30 centimeters in diameter, suggesting the possible existence of giant squids. 25 or 30 meters long, only for the body mass, without taking in account the tentacles. That is to say, a total length of almost 50 meters.
Yeah,
incredible.
That's long. Yep.
That is.
What we're doing is 12 to 13 meters of the body length.
That is astounding. And look, I would hate to be the person to cut that up for calamari. That would be gigantic. Take a week to eat one piece.
A huge bouillabaisse.
Yes.
All right. let's maybe step into these images of yours that you can tell us about, Michelle. That was astounding. And I think it's incredible, the scientific deduction you did there. And at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of cryptozoologists, before we step into those images, they have a lot of question marks surrounding the Smithsonian Institute dating back. They feel like the Smithsonian Institute is withholding important information. So what are your feelings about the Smithsonian? I'd love to know.
The Smithsonian Institution, it's a great institution in Washington, which possesses a lot of skulls, skeletons, fossils, and so on. And of course, they had the famous formaldehyde tank sent by Dr. Webb with a big sample, several kilograms of the Florida monsters, and unfortunately, the small fish of the Gulf of Mexico, which he put in the same tank. And these samples were analyzed by Joseph Gennaro, whom I met in Roma, in Italy, in 1999, at a zoological congress in Roma. And of course, we spoke together of the Florida monster and of the DNA, the possibility of using DNA techniques to solve the problem. The method we used was the PCR. You know PCR?
No.
No, explain that to us and excuse our naivety.
Polymerase chain reaction.
Don't know it. Wow.
But it is the same method which were used for the coronavirus tests. Well,
I should be aware of
we
that.
say that we're taking samples from the nose, and to find the DNA of the virus, and using this famous technique known as polymerase chain reaction. It's a kind of photocopying.
The PRC. Yeah, of course we know that.
I think we're getting lost in translation.
Yeah, the PRC. Yeah. Of course.
PCR.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And nowadays, all the people are aware of these DNA techniques, and it was very, of course, in 1999, it was really a novelty. Well, yes, you want that we speak about the white oriki, maybe?
That would be great. And can you explain to people can you pronounce that? The white oraki?
No, I can't.
All right.
What is the problem? In New Zealand, for more than 2 centuries, an animal known as white oriki to the Maoris, it was reported in some lakes and rivers of New Zealand, but mainly in South Island. It is described as looking like a small otter, about 45 to 60 centimeters long, and looking like a small otter. But the problem is in New Zealand, there is no native land terrestrial mammal. So the existence of this animal is not accepted by most cryptozoologists. Most zoologists think that all these reports are just observations of introduced mammals, mammals introduced by man in the 19th and 20th centuries, animals such as looking like an otter, of course, like stoats, ferrets, mongooses, etc.
We won't do a show and tell
Well, if it was only stoats, ferrets, mongooses, one would expect a lot of observations in North Island and not only in South Island. I have gathered about more than 100 reports for South Island and only possibly 4 or 5 reports in North Island.
Right.
But above all, if these introduced animals can occasionally enter the water and even swim, it is certainly not their preferred mean to escape when they are in danger.
Right.
Swimming has been reported 50 times among the 100 observations. Even less stoats and ferrets are able to swim upstream or to dive. Swimming upstream or diving has been observed by 20 witnesses among the 100 observations. This is an aquatic behavior consistent with the webbed feet reported 8 times webbed feet, and even footprints have been reported with webbed feet. Of course, stoats and ferrets have not webbed feet. The first report of a land mammal in New Zealand were by famous explorer James Cook in 1773. He writes that in Pickersgill Harbour in South Island, 3 sailors of the expedition observed a 4-footed animal, and he says that it was the size of a cat, short legs, a mouse collar, a bushy tail, etc. Was it the famous New Zealand otter? Well, it's possible, but in this case, there is no relation with the water, with a river or with a lake. Most observers, most witnesses in the years later speak of lakes or water or rivers. You can show maybe the one of the first reports at Wanaka Lake in South Island.
Is it this one?
The
first image there?
Yes. It is a manuscript in the collection of the New Zealand National Library, and a manuscript by Mr. Monroe, one of the first explorers of South Island. And in this manuscript and the drawing, you would see that he placed beavers or beaver-like animals in Wannock, now Wanaka Lake. And this report is from 1844.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So well, the next slide. Can you show?
Yes. Thank you.
There is a possible photograph taken by Jane Haskell in 1971.
Right.
Next slide.
Keep going,
that's
Bubs.
Jane. Yeah.
Yep. Keep moving. That's Jane there.
Yeah.
And the next one.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
no.
No.
Sorry. No.
This one here.
Well,
Yes.
this one.
Wow.
Of course, the photograph is not good enough, and it is rather inconclusive. But it is, as far as I know, it is the sole photograph, alleged photograph of the white oracle. There was even a hunt, an otter hunt in 1983.
Right.
Sorry.
Is that?
No.
No.
Okay. This one?
No.
No. It would
no,
be.
you have already showed.
Oh, is that it? That's the one there. Sorry, Michelle.
Yeah.
And there was even a movie by the New Zealand television on this otter hunt. No otter was caught, of course. And the next slide, okay.
Okay, is that this one?
Yes. In the 1970s, George Pollock, who was a solicitor of Christchurch, but very interested in the New Zealand otter, made research. He had interviewed with several witnesses, and even he photographed a burrow, a hole made by this animal, like otter, or, well, wait a minute. Other slides?
Other slide?
Which one's that? The
This
paper
one?
one?
Yeah, the same kind of hollow, of burrow, was photographed also by a New Zealand field naturalist, Lloyd Essler, in 2011, I believe. 2011. And after, of course, an otter sighting, always in South Island, New Zealand. Other evidence, possibly. Next slide.
Next slide.
There we go. Footprints photographed by Gilbert van Renen in 1971. The box on the upper side of the photograph is a matchbox.
A matchbox. Okay.
Matchbox.
Would they be the same similar size to a platypus?
Well, they are, of course, similar to otter footprints.
Right.
Next slide, please. Yes, the remains of a trout, partly or almost completely eaten by an animal looking like an otter in 1970. Well, the witness saw an otter. He saw excrements of the animal. He saw footprints, webbed footprints again, and
These
and the
footprints look like that.
remains of the food of the animal. Unfortunately, he didn't photograph the footprints, the excrements, or the animal itself, but he had the good idea of keeping the remains of the trout in his refrigerator.
Right.
And
Wow.
that explains why the photograph is in color with the high resolution, etc.
Yes.
It was photographed in a few years ago, and he sent me the this photograph. This is exactly the kind of remains left by an otter when
it's finished its dinner.
when it is eating a fish.
Okay.
Well, so could this animal be a true otter? The question is what an otter is doing in New Zealand. Well, George Pollock, this Christchurch solicitor, proposed in the 1970s in several articles that the Waitoriki is a true otter brought in New Zealand by Indian sailors several centuries ago. Why bringing otters?
Why did they bring an otter?
From India? Because fishing with otters is a traditional fishing even nowadays in Bangladesh or in some parts of India. The otters with are pursuing the fishes towards the nets of the fishermen, and this kind of traditional fishing with otters was in India or Bangladesh several centuries ago. So another piece of evidence for George Pollock is that the Tamil bell, about 5 centuries old, was found in 1836 in Northland, in New Zealand, by William Colenso, and possibly a shipwreck several centuries ago, or more recently, but with an old Tamil bell. So Pollock's idea is that these Indian fishermen with otters, had a wreck on the New Zealand coast, and that they otters escaped and reproduced themselves for several centuries. Of course, all that is not impossible, but it with many if. Okay.
Yeah.
So another possibility, and I rather think that the Waitoriki is an unknown animal species, possibly related to the Australian platypus. You know the platypus.
Yes, we do.
Although without the famous duck beak of the platypus, and that is to say, a true New Zealand monotreme, it is egg-laying mammals. And this theory was proposed by German naturalists Wilhelm Bölsche as early as 1896, more than 1 century ago. And
That's
then by
astounding.
the father of cryptozoology, Bernard Hellmans himself, in 1955. Well, so why a monotreme rather than an otter? In fact, the platypus and the otter species are sharing many features.
Right.
The general shape, of course, of an otter, the same for a platypus, a nictitating membrane, that is to say, a third horizontal eyelid, a thick tail, webbed feet, aquatic habits, of course, related with the webbed feet, a musky smell. They burrow holes where they can take refuge. So that most arguments for the existence of an otter, according to Pollock and other researchers like Lloyd Essler, can be used for the monotreme theory as well.
Right.
On the other hand, several reports are not consistent with an otter. For instance, one of the witnesses named Hawkins, mentioned by Reverend Richard Taylor in 1855, said that the skins were the skins of what he called a freshwater otter were not equal to those of the seal. That is very impossible, because the fur of otters is precisely the most precious in poultry industry. But the main reasons, again, the author theory is given by Harris in a huge monography, Otters, A Story of the Recent Latrine, published in 1968. Field naturalists should find the excrements, which are called sprains for the otter, with which otters mark their territory.
Right.
I am aware of only one report of excrement, the one with the remains of the trout, for about 100 sightings. If we were speaking of an otter, the expected ratio for an otter should be exactly the contrary. That is to say, 100 sprains for one sighting.
Right.
On the other hand, some reports are just in favor, support the monotreme theory. According to Maori traditions, recorded by Walter Mantle in 1850, the Waitoreki is said to lay eggs like the platypus.
Right.
Of course, it may be a confusion with a reptile, such as the tuatara, the sphinodon, or another reptile. But also, several witnesses describe the tail as flattened. I quote their own words. Flattened, broad, like the fruit of the kie, which is not unlike in appearance the tail of a beaver. And even flap-like. That's much more looking the tail of a platypus or a beaver. Also, in the 1976, Dr. Garfield Crawford, the man who noted this flap-like tail, also described how the animal, I quote, maneuvered in the water with steady, even strokes, what is typical of the platypus swim, and quite unlike the swimming of the otters.
Right.
So my preferred opinion is that we are dealing with an unknown species of monotreme, of New Zealand monotreme, still unknown to science, and of course remaining to be discovered.
Extraordinary.
However, if some scientists are more or less ready to accept the possibility of otters imported by man, no scientist seems to believe in a true native mammal, including monotremes. Why? Because until recently, the consensus was that New Zealand was separated from Australia through continental drift about 80 million years ago, after the occurrence of monotremes in Australia and New Guinea, now represented by the platypus and echidnas in Australia and New Guinea. And thus explaining the lack of terrestrial mammal in New Zealand. But in the last 30 years, several fossil monotreme, 100 or more million years old, have been found in Australia. Steropodon, Colicodon, Teinolophos, etc. These monotremes, very old monotreme, more than 100 million years old, related to the platypus, they had teeth, unlike modern Ornithorhynchus, modern platypus, which has only bony plates in its jaws, crushed shells. So the discovery of Steropodon was considered a strong evidence for the Waitoriki as a monotreme by German biologist Gunther Zehm in the scholarly journal Tuatara in 1988. Other fossil monotremes have been found, this time in Patagonia, in South America, demonstrating a very wide distribution of these mammals in the southern hemisphere before the continental drift separated these land masses, South America, South Africa, Antarctica, and Australia and New Zealand. So why not monotremes in New Zealand too? And in 2006, two mandibles and a partial femur of a mammal, possibly looking like a rat, but a native mammal from the Miocene of Central Otago, New Zealand, almost 20 million years old, have been discovered in South Island. The zoological relationship are still controversial. It is not a monotreme, but it was a native mammal in New Zealand, and this was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2006. In other words, all the geological arguments against the possible existence of a native terrestrial mammal in New Zealand cannot be used nowadays. So what can there is a third possibility: the otter, the native mammal, or a mix of the two previous explanations. Some sightings being of an otter, and some other ones being of a native mammal. Well, so what could validate one theory or another? Ideally, catching an animal would close the matter, of course.
Yes.
But even without any specimen, as I said previously, with modern DNA tests, only a few cells would be sufficient, whereas with the root of the hair, for instance, or even environmental DNA. Remember the trout remains. If by luck the animal which ate this fish left saliva, one could determine its nature and the owner, which would be of great importance for the ecological and environmental point of view, or a monotreme, which would be an immense discovery for geology and zoology. Environmental DNA also could be made by sampling water of the lakes said to harbor the white orchid, and if they contain DNA of this animal left by the skin, for instance, even if if the animal is no more present in the lake. Incidentally, a New Zealand biologist of the University of Otago, Neil Gemmell, is an authority on environmental DNA, which he used in the Loch Ness, the famous Scottish lake. I would like to conclude with Charles Darwin in a letter to German geologist Julius von Haast. Julius von Haast was a German geologist who later lived in New Zealand, in South Island. And von Haast encountered otter tracks again near the Ashburton River in 1861. And Charles Darwin, the famous naturalist, wrote to Julius von Haast that the discovery of this otter, or animal looking like an otter and leaving footprints looking like otter footprints. He wrote that it might be something like the Solnhofen bird. The Solnhofen bird is the Archaeopteryx, the famous fossil birds with the teeth, you say.
Right.
And yes, the actual discovery of a New Zealand monotreme would be certainly as important as this fossil bird, to understand the evolution of the first mammals. Well, okay, for the white orchid, and great hope with DNA tests. I hope.
How extraordinary. What a story. The Waitaraki. Yeah. And I think I'm pronouncing that correctly now. This is truly scientific cryptozoology. Yeah. You never thought we'd talk about an otter for this long, did you? But there are moments in your investigations where you have actually broached that discovery. And is one of them, let's have a look at this. What is this here? Tell us about it. Was that Thor Heyerdahl from the Kentucky expedition?
Ah, yes. Incidentally, my first cryptozoological article in 1981. Wow, I was very young at the time.
26? You were 26 years of age?
It was my first article in a scientific journal on the possible existence of an unknown bird in Ivaoa. Ivaoa is one of the islands of the Marquesas archipelago,
right,
in the Pacific Ocean, in French Polynesia nowadays.
French Polynesia, okay.
Several reports, witnesses for the first one of the first witnesses is Thor Heyerdahl, In fact, it should be pronounced Tur Eyerdal, in Norwegian.
Right.
Tur Eyerdal was a Norwegian explorer and ethnologist. He became famous in 1947 when with the Kon-Tiki expedition across the Pacific Ocean on a balsa raft.
Wood raft, that's right.
He wanted to prove that Polynesia had been reached by pre-Inca sailors. Well, of course, that is quite controversial, but what is of interest for us is that in 1937, while visiting the island of Ivaoa in the Marquesas Islands, he observed, he sighted a flightless bird. This is his account. In the middle of the path, a bird without wings was standing in the middle of the path watching us. Then it ran faster than a little hen along the trail, disappeared like a lightning into a sort of tunnel between the dense ferns. Okay, and I contacted Tur Eyerdal in 1980 to obtain more details and mainly the size of the bird. And he replied, it is his answer, his letter. The wingless bird of Ivaoa has left me with the impression that it was considerably bigger than a sparrow and rather the size of a long-legged seagull. This question of the size is important because one hypothesis about the nature of the bird was that it was the spotless crake, which is a very little bird, much smaller than what Tur Eyerdal described. Another sighting was by Henry Lee, it was reported by Francis Mazière in 1957, and where it is? No, here.
Is that the right one I've got on the screen there?
Yeah.
For those people watching,
Yeah.
we've got the letters and images up on the screen, so watch, get off that audio.
I can give you the translation. According to the old Lee, the informant and the observer, who had made after one on horseback, but failed to capture it as it was running too fast. Again, the animal was as big as a cock, big bird. It's it was purplish blue. Its beak yellow, as well as its long and strong legs. It only had stumps of wings. Long legs, long-legged seagull, wrote Tur Eyerdal. You see that it is the same bird and the same description. And Mazière goes on and writes, this description sounded so extravagant that I did not pay attention to it until I came across a New Zealand magazine relating its photographs in support, which allowed us to show them to the natives, to the Marquesian natives, the discovery by a mountain expedition of an unknown group of nocturnists, he means notornis, in fact, which had taken refuge on the edge of a glacier. The animal was the same. And well, so in my article, first cryptozoological article in 1981, can you?
Is that it, or is this in here?
No.
Can you show the next slides, please?
That one, or is it? I think that's it. I think.
Next slide. No.
No. I don't know if we've got that article. Did we miss out on that?
I don't know. I thought I got it.
Yeah.
No, that's another one.
Wait, yes.
Which one?
Yes. Okay. In fact, yes. In 1981, I proposed that this mysterious bird was related to the New Zealand takahe Porphyrio osteteri. Several years later, in 1988, David Steadman, a leading expert on fossil birds, published an article in the Proceeding of the Biological Society of Washington on the discovery of a new Porphyrio species from Marquesas Island, and precisely in Ivawa, the island where Tu Heyerdahl and Henry Lee observed this mysterious bird. More probably, this fossil bird, only 1,000 years old, these bones.
Wow.
Most probably he was or either unable to fly or preferring to run than to fly. And it is exactly what the witnesses say. Can you show the next slide, please?
Yes, is this the next one?
David Steadman, yes. And next one.
That's an amazing bird in his hand there. What is that bird?
And next slide.
Next slide.
Okay. In 2001, I was informed by a correspondent, an ornithologist of Polynesia, of Tahiti. He sent me an email asking, are you aware that Paul Gauguin, the famous French painter, Paul Gauguin painted the bird, the mysterious bird you were speaking about in your article? No, not at all. And after a few minutes of research on internet, I found out the painting now in the collection of the Museum of Modern Art in Liège, in Belgium. And this painting, made by Paul Gauguin in 1902 in Ivawa, precisely the same island. Paul Gauguin spent his 3 last years in Ivawa, and he died in Ivawa, and his grave is also in Ivawa. In fact, two famous French artists are buried in Ivawa, Paul Gauguin and the singer
not Serge Gainsbourg.
No.
No, not Serge Gainsbourg. I don't remember the name of the singer. It's completely.
That's all right. I mean, Gauguin is the one. What an astounding
It
thing
will
to come
come
across.
again in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Well, yes, can you show the painting, please?
Yes.
Well, that was the close up.
Yep. Well, this painting is known as the Hivawa sorcerer, or the Marquisian with a red cape. Okay.
The shaman.
And indeed, on the left, on the right bottom, you can see a dog and a bird. A bird which looks like
what was being described.
Next slide. No.
Next slide.
Yes. The famous takahe of New Zealand.
Wow, it's beautiful.
And the Porphyrio, another bird of the genus Porphyrio, which is found in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, etc. And not in New Zealand, not in Polynesia, but in France. A fossil looking like this was present in Ivawa. Okay, can you show the dog with the bird, please?
The dog.
Yes, of course.
And that is very interesting because you can see that the dog is biting the back of the bird. And remember that in the witness accounts, which I collected, the mysterious bird was said to be very, very fast, very rapid, and only the dogs were able to catch him in the ferns, in the in the bush. And it is exactly what Paul Gauguin painted in 1902. Yes, in 1902, and precisely in Ivawa, where the fossil one says subfossil because the bones are not even mineralized. The bone is almost recent, only 100 years, 1,000 years old.
So that's what they term as subfossil.
Yeah, it hasn't fossilized yet.
So my hypothesis of a bird looking like the takahe and living in Ivawa was turned out to be proved by these discoveries of fossil bones in Ivawa.
That must have been an extraordinary moment for you.
I published an update for my first cryptozoological article in with these new elements, these new documents, particularly the painting by Paul Gauguin.
Yep.
Which is just astounding.
Yep. There it was.
Okay. And sorry,
I just think that is remarkable. And
I am searching something on Google. Sorry.
No problem.
I have found again the name of the singer, Jacques Brel.
Oh, Jacques Brel. We love Jacques Brel.
I love Jacques.
Jackie, he was incredible.
Jacques Brel died
Jacques Brel,
in
he's
Ivoire,
amazing.
and his grave is in Ivoire. And the people who visit Ivoire can made a kind of pilgrim on the graves of Paul Gauguin and Jacques Brel.
Wow.
Jacques Brel really influenced David Bowie. David Bowie was very obsessed with Jacques Brel.
Yes.
An incredible
He's an
ballad.
amazing artist, Jacques Brel. Yeah, Jackie. Anyway, there you go.
You know what? This has been an extraordinary moment, and I have to thank the podcast Beastly Things, because I wouldn't have been able to navigate my way if it wasn't for that podcast you did nearly a year ago. And also I have to thank the astounding Tony Healy.
Oh, Tony was amazing.
Who is actually such a true gentleman like yourself and recommended you highly. Your research is remarkable. And your approach to cryptozoology really needs to be embraced by culture, because science is one way we're going to prove distinctly that these species are still there in some way or another.
Yeah.
And well, I was very honored to be invited in your TV show. If your followers are interested, they can find my website, cryptozool.ovh. Cryptozool.ovh. OVH is a French provider.
So that's O-V.
So it's Cryptozoo.
OVH.
OVS.
I can type it on the chat.
Yes. Well, we don't do the chat. We're not doing it live at the moment. It's a pre-record.
Okay, so you know what? You can send it to me on my email, and I will put it up
in the show notes.
Even the show notes, because the show goes to.
I'll send you by email.
Send me the details
to my website,
and I will put it on the show notes.
And thank you so much for your interview. And
we so appreciate who you are, Michel. Are you also the webmaster of the Academy of Cryptozoology? I heard about that as well, which is a French private site, I take it, or it might be the Cryptozoo I'm thinking about.
Sorry?
Okay. Don't worry. Send us that email and we will sort that out.
Yeah, we'll put that email up for everybody to interested.
We thank you so much for your valuable time.
Thank you. And in the month to come, I will be in Belgium for a cryptozoological meeting.
Really?
And I will present the several unknown animals, cryptids, if you want, of La Réunion Island. La Réunion is an island in the Indian Ocean, east of Madagascar.
Okay.
And the daughter of my wife is living in La Réunion since several years, and almost each year we go to La Réunion, and I have been interested in several cryptozoological files of this island. And for instance, an unknown bat, not Batman.
No.
An unknown bat in La Réunion, which has been only recorded, observed several 1 or 2 centuries ago, and recently recorded with the ultra sounds. And so there is a hard evidence for the existence of an unknown bat, or possibly two unknown species of bats in La Réunion. And also an owl, which has been observed by several naturalists, field naturalists, and entomologists. But, well, he was interested in insects, and he did not realize that he had observed an unknown bird, a bird of prey, a night bird of prey, and he kept this for himself for several years, and then yes, I have observed an owl in La Réunion, and all the naturalists, etc. So even in the nowadays we can open extraordinary files of cryptozoology, even in a small island like La Réunion. Well, small, 50 kilometers, more than 50 kilometers in diameter. Not very small island, larger than Ivaoa, in fact.
Yes.
But there are almost 1 million inhabitants now in La Réunion.
Wow.
And all the coast is very crowded. Only the inland is still wild, and well, there is some hope for the existence of unknown animals, unknown small animals. The owl is about 20 or 20 centimeters high, and the bat is possibly like that.
Right. Yeah. Pretty small.
Fascinating. The people can purchase this book on Amazon. Is there an English translation?
Yes. You can find it on Amazon. You Tentacles, Michel Raynal, and you will find it. It is so well. If I remember it well, the price is 29 euros. 29 euros. That is to say, about 30 American dollars. In Australian dollars, $30. 30 American dollars. It is about the same.
No, it'd be about $50, $60.
Well,
but that's reasonable. Beautiful looking book. Is it in English?
Is it translated in English?
Well, it is very like the Adventures of Tintin by Hergé.
Yeah, I love those.
Remember, it is for the young people from 7 to 75 years old, and it is exactly the same for this book, because it is very illustrated.
All right.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
And there are a lot of photographs. Okay. Because it is, in fact, on the giant cephalopods in science and in the myth,
in culture,
in the legend. So there are a lot of illustrations from 20,000 Leagues Under the Seas by Jules Verne, and the movie by Richard Fleischer, the the Toilers of the Sea by etc. The pulp magazines of the 1950s.
The pulp magazines.
Yeah.
Is it an English translation? Is it translated into English, the text?
No translation is available. unfortunately.
Oh, so it's in French.
But as I said, it's very, very illustrated. So even children,
Yes,
even
they can look at the pictures.
not French-speaking English, not French-speaking children can read, or at least looking at this book, because it is full of illustrations, and at each page you say, "Wow, it's extraordinary." Pierre-Yves Garcin, the co-author, and myself, we spent many days, many weeks, months to find this kind of illustration in order to have a book mixing science and fantasy.
Yeah.
You know what? We will be purchasing that book no matter what. We love that mixture. We love that collision of culture, and it looks incredibly beautiful. It is a pity that the tyranny of distance and language makes the information about this world of cryptozoology very sort of unknown in the West in many ways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And this level of scientific involvement is profound and honorable. And we thank you so much for your work in the field. You are someone that we should all aspire to be and acknowledge your work. So, Michel, thank you for your valuable time today, and thank you for being on Untold Radio. I'm going to get Doug Hychek to get in touch with you, because I think he'd have a lot to talk to you about. He involves science in his search for Bigfoot.
Absolutely.
And he's just finishing a documentary, Legend Meets Science. And when you think about it, anything's possible.
Well, it is.
I mean, the world's leading primatologist, Jane Goodall, said we all have to pay attention to Indigenous history, because somewhere in that folklore, what we term as folklore or what we term of myth, may be possibly a reality.
The stories are there. We just
thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michel. If you can send me that the website URL on the email, I can include it in the show notes. Thank you so much.
And we so enjoyed the music of Serge Gainsbourg as well. We still do.
Okay. Bye.
Anything good. Okay, thank you. Bye.
All the best. And take good care. Our hardest will you, and thank you yet again.
All right. All right, everyone. We'll be back next week with another show. And
bye.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
All right.
Bye. Bye.